Hey everyone, so in today's video basically what I'm going to be looking at is the Eufy security app as well as the integration into HomeKit with the Eufy cameras. So first thing I'll do is I'll actually come across to HomeKit and we'll go through that section first because this is essentially what is most useful to me. It's what attracted me to the whole Eufy setup system, and I'll just show the positive and the negative points. So first things first, so these are all the devices that I have currently installed. Most of these are sensors, so as you can see from here all the way down to here is all Windows sensors. I have a few extra sensors thanks to the Eufy cameras, and then we have some temperature sensors in every single, well, every room that is useful. So in all the bedrooms, in the downstairs living room and the front room, the LEDs that I run through my Homebridge setup. I've posted a video about that. It's either already live or will be becoming live in the next couple of days. And these are all the Aqara switches that actually go through the Aqara hub. So this one is my room light at the moment. That's just toggled on and off, and everything works nice and fast. The things that are showing no response, most of these are unplugged. However, these particular plugs, the HomeKit plugs, as I've mentioned in the past, they can be a little temperamental. So then on iOS 13, which is what this phone's running on, all your cameras basically come near the bottom section. I believe the app, the iPad app is slightly different, but on the phone essentially you get all your cameras at the bottom. So this is your view essentially, and as you can see, you get, if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you can see a little timer, and essentially what that's doing is refreshing every now and then, but it's just grabbing a single image. So essentially it's a low power way of actually keeping you up to date without actually draining the battery life on the cameras themselves. So what we'll do is we'll come into the driveway camera, and when it boots up, this is essentially what you're presented with. So the red dot means that you're live, and you can see the live in the bottom left as well. This icon in the bottom right is essentially everything else that's associated to that area. So this zone that I've got set to is outside. So because I've also got an outside porch light, and the outside back garden is also comes under outside, both of those show up. The porch light, because the light is off, it shows us no response. It's a LifeX bulb, so because the light switch is off, that shows us no response. That's fine, there's no issues with that. So what else do we get? So essentially you have the camera, and we can switch around, and this is essentially the quality that you get. We do get audio playback through the camera as well. What I have noted is it's not very loud, so I don't know whether that's HomeKit, Eufy, or the cameras themselves, but it doesn't seem to be very loud in how it actually plays back. So most of the time it seems to be dulling down a lot of sounds. I don't know whether that's to try and amplify voices, and it kind of picks up on voices, but I've not really spoken to the camera, so I couldn't really comment too much on that. So what else do we have on this page? So we have the little drop down where you can actually switch between the two cameras that I have working. So that's now the back garden, and switch back to the driveway, and then you have the gear icon. And the gear icon actually is quite useful because it does actually bring up straight away your battery level, which as you can see from this is already down to 92%. I'll come on to battery life in a second once we actually take a look at the Eufy app. So essentially we've got it as the room, which is just the zone outside, accessories, which is your sensor. So because each camera essentially has a built-in sensor, motion sensor, you can actually separate them and basically make use of those through HomeKit as well. So these two here, back garden and outside driveway, are the two sensors I've actually separated out. And once I kind of figure out a reliable way of making use of those, I'll set up a little HomeKit scene or automation if you like. So what else do we get? So if we come back in, you have your notifications, so you can, if you want to be notified whenever something triggers. At the moment, obviously, because this is iOS 13, we don't have motion zones or anything like that, and you can obviously choose to record on everything if you have the higher tariffs for your iCloud. So coming down, you can also camera status light. It's showing us on now. that I believe is actually off, although I'm not sure whether that, because through the Eufy app I've actually got that disabled, so I don't know whether that's something that's actually clashing with the Eufy app, but I believe the camera status light, I actually have that turned off because I didn't want it drawing attention. That could, however, just be the light that shows up once motion is detected, where a little red LED will actually light up. Night vision, I've got that enabled, and it shows you which bridge it's actually connected to. Because I also bought the doorbell, I actually have 2 bridges. I can show you that in a second. And this is just the option to basically bring the motion sensor back in and group them back together. So as you can see, so Ace room we have the camera's home base, and downstairs we have the doorbell, and the other one is the Hoops one that I've actually got set up. So in terms of HomeKit, everything is pretty smooth. Playback when you're on Wi-Fi is nice and fast, and same thing through the Apple TV and things like that as well. It seems to work fairly quickly. Now we'll come into the Eufy security app, and this is where we'll start to discuss some of the good points and some of the bad points. So first things first, the doorbell. Now I had purchased this hoping that it would already have HomeKit support. Unfortunately it does not. However, having contacted them, they have advised that it is something that should be coming, so we should be getting HomeKit support, but at the moment they can't confirm that we have it, or it's definitely coming, because basically they just use the normal line of it's a complicated process and they're working with Apple on it. So the doorbell camera, we've got it enabled so you can stream the footage. LED light I've got enabled on this one because as soon as somebody approaches, I want the ring to light up. People still don't press the button, but because I've got motion detection enabled, what it does do is it'll basically message me as soon as somebody's outside, as soon as it detects something. So as you can see with my settings, I've got sensitivity the highest. I've got it set to human only. Realistically, where my doorbell is positioned, because there's a fence just behind it, I'll just show you this. So if we come into activity zone, as you can see, because of the fence, nobody else is really going to get picked up anyway. However, we do get a lot of cats and stuff running down the bottom, which does do a lot of false triggers on the Aqara motion sensor that I've actually got set up outside, because that's actually quite low. So a lot of the times when cats and stuff run by, that actually triggers and makes it look as though somebody's outside. Now with regards to the activity zone, obviously I've got it set, my setup is in such a way where it's quite easy for me to actually have it set up here. Essentially what you could do is, obviously if this was more straight on, you could limit, basically bring this down and change how you've actually got it. So in terms of the doorbell, so far so good. Now in my video quality settings, I've got literally everything set to high, and I've got it set to smartphone first, because that way it will give the best quality in terms of streaming. Quick response, so quick response is just messages that you can record, and then if somebody rings it, you can literally just hit a button and basically reply back with that. Auto night vision I've got enabled, however most of the time, because of where mine is, because I've got motion sensors outside, whenever somebody approaches the door the light will come on. So the only time I really need to use that is if I'm ever logging into to view the live feed. Notifications on this particular doorbell, so I've got it set up as ring, doorbell ring, and what I'll do is I'll just turn on motion detect as well. Now there are a lot of false triggers. I think that's why I actually disabled it, and the reason for that is basically every single time somebody walks past, it's gonna essentially trigger. So coming down to the bottom, so I've got it set on full effect, which for me it doesn't actually work very well. So I think originally was this one, so include the thumbnail, so whenever the doorbell rings it basically puts a small picture. The full effect, I believe what that's meant to do is send a bigger picture of whoever's rang the doorbell, but because of the way the notifications come through, it doesn't really work very well. At the bottom is literally just your tones, so these are the tones that you actually get when each one rings. So notification sounds, everything I've got set to max. Power manager, oh actually yeah, so if you come down into the power manager section you can actually see it. So as you can see, 7 days it's been installed and it's already down to 86% in battery life. Now what it is set to currently is obviously a customized one. Let's just go in. So this could possibly be one of the reasons, so I might actually just change that to optimized to have it trimmed down. Although if I just click onto that, I don't know whether yeah, see, I didn't have this option enabled, so that could possibly be what may have been causing it. So I'll test it out on optimal surveillance, see how it goes. So 86% with 7 days use. Everything that I installed I gave 100% charge to before I set it up. So as you can see, it's very high numbers in terms of actual activations. However, that's basically what you're going to end up with where my doorbell is actually located. So that's the doorbell. Now, so obviously the disappointing part was the no home kit, however, generally it works perfectly fine. Now, where it's not so good is with regards to the two cameras. So if we come into the front, this is the driveway camera, and I've had it on optimal surveillance. Sometimes I've had it on optimal battery life as well. And as you can see, with 7 days use, it's already down to 92%. Now bear in mind that this is meant to be a 365-day setup, and even when I had it on optimal battery life, each day's usage was essentially dropping down either 1 or 2% on the actual battery life. So with that, obviously it's definitely not going to last me a year. The estimate that I've actually got at the moment, just going off how it's been using it so far, is roughly around 3 months, which to be perfectly honest, if it triggered in the way I wanted it to, then that would be fine. However, if I just come into some of the triggers, so here you can see I had a parcel delivered. So this person has obviously walked to my front door and delivered a parcel, and then on the way back it's captured him. However, if I look to the next one down, as you can see, that's not the same person. So this is prime example. So this is what I want to see every single time. So if somebody walks down the driveway, and as you can see from where it actually began, if I start that, you can see it began when the person got halfway down my drive. So unless somebody's walking that slowly, it's not going to actually trigger. And this is obviously where it triggered for them going back. So they had to get in view to around here before it actually triggered. So the biggest problem I've got at the moment with the driveway camera, and if we come into motion detection and we just check the activity zones, as you can see, with the way it's set up, it's kind of hard to get it to trigger fast enough in all of the locations. So essentially I don't want it going onto the neighbors' drives, and obviously because of this bit here, I can't actually stretch it too far that way. I don't want it going right out onto the pavement just in case somebody has literally just stood there. However, originally I did actually have it set up in a very similar way to this, and it just doesn't detect properly. And then when it is detecting, so just accept that, and we'll come back. So as you can see right now, I've got detection on high, and I've got it set to humans only. And if we just come back into Power Manager, so as you can see, it's 528 events, sorry, and then 451 of those has basically been filtered off, so they've not been sent through. So recorded and saved 77. Now the problem with this, the notifications on the Eufy Security app, and this is something that they need to sort out, is you can't disable notifications for motion without disabling motion itself. So by that, what I mean is, if you come down to notifications, all you can do is choose the tone. So you can have it deliver it silently or with a tone. However, what you can't do is turn motion notification off without just completely disabling motion. And if you disable motion, as you can see, all smart detection features will be turned off. The camera will not record video and push notifications. So the only way to record is to then get push notifications as well. I can't see any options, and I've tried various different settings in here. Nothing will actually disable the notifications for motion. So essentially every single time my kids go out onto the drive, basically we've got some bins just at the front there, and we also have one bin just down here, and also in the back garden. As you can see from this, most of this is literally just my wife and my daughter basically just going out to hang up clothes on the line or something like that, or my youngest playing in the garden, and literally every single time it will trigger and it will send a notification. I've actually got rid of most of the notifications, and today's right now is actually quite slow because everybody's inside, so nobody's having to go outside to actually do anything. But in the past few days I've had probably between, well, you can see from this yourself. So on the front driveway, if I come down to Power Manager, I've had 77 triggers. And then on the back garden, if we come to Power Manager, we have 81. So that's over 150 just between those two. And then you have to also throw in the doorbell on top of that as well. So if we come into this, you've got 151 events for that as well. So you're talking over 300 events in 7 days. So that's over 300 notifications in 7 days. And what I did actually do, obviously when I first came in, the notifications I had it disabled for motion detection, and that's just to stop me getting so many of those ones. But what it will do is, obviously, it'll still record. It'll record every time somebody walks past, regardless of whether they've pushed the button or not, which is fine. That's how I want it. And to be perfectly honest, with how easy it is to actually remove the doorbell, I really don't mind about the battery life, because it should charge overnight, and it's exactly the same thing I used to do with my previous doorbell as well. Literally just charge overnight and then put it back on, and that to be fair used to only last me between 2 and 3 months anyway. So if this gets more than 3 months, then instantly that's an improvement, because the quality on the Eufy doorbell is definitely a lot better. That's a lot more noticeable, and it generally just looks a lot better. There's the way that the light glows up with motion, as opposed to just being with the push of the button. On that particular doorbell, if you had the motion detection on, the previous one, it literally just drained the battery within a week. Whereas on this one, obviously I've had the motion detection on right from day one, and as you can see, it's been 7 days. It's dropped 14%, but I'm not too fussed about that if it's doing what it's meant to be doing. So as I say, the biggest issue for me at the moment is the fact that the notifications is just a mess. They need to come up with a way where you can disable motion notifications without actually disabling the recording. So I want it to record in the background, but I don't want it to be pushed on every single device essentially. And seeing as my front driveway is just triggered, and there you go. So just had another one. Obviously I've got the app open, that's why you didn't actually see it, but my wife's actually just come back in. I've heard the little sensor trigger, and basically another one came up. So if we come into Power Manager, as you can see, 152 recordings now, 17 were false. I'm not sure how it actually got false ones. Generally, other than that, so obviously I wanted to point out everything that was wrong with the app, everything that all wrong with the cameras in general. So there you go. So as you can see, this is what happens constantly. Back garden, someone has been spotted, which is fine. I can, with the back garden, essentially I could actually disable motion detection on that and just have it play live video, but the whole point of it is to actually record. So the biggest issues for me currently is the notifications. I want a way to actually disable motion detection push notifications on certain cameras without disabling the recording. So basically what I want it to do is, say for example, if I do have a parcel delivered, I still want it to record it, I just don't want to be notified about it every single time, because what you have to remember is this isn't live either. So when normally what tends to happen is the doorbell one seems to come through the quickest, the driveway and the back garden, because it's looking out for further motion, it won't actually send you the notification straight away. It'll send it you once it thinks, yeah, okay, the motion's completely stopped, it's recorded it, and then it'll send you the notification. So for that reason, I'd prefer it if basically you could just stop those notifications from just constantly coming through. And the other one is obviously with regards to the actual recordings themselves. So I want it in a way where basically, as you can see, I set that up to be more sensitive on the front driveway. My wife's just come in having walked down the driveway, and as you can see from the time now and the last notification, it's still not come through. So possibly that one could come through in a little while, but it just doesn't seem to record on the front camera in the way I would like it to. So I don't know whether that's a positioning thing or what, but that's the one thing that is bugging me a little at the moment, the fact that there are certain scenarios. Here's one where this person's walking back, there's nothing of him actually approaching the house, so I've not actually got his face approaching the house. this was one where it did actually trigger correctly. If same thing, the very first one in the day, as you can see, Royal Mail delivery. I've got lovely shot of his back, but I've got nothing of him actually approaching the house. Now the one benefit for me is because I have the doorbell, obviously I can see their face by loading up the doorbell recording, but assuming they don't actually walk all the way to the front door, say for example they stop somewhere around here, or somebody's just messing about in the car or something like that, then more than likely it won't actually trigger fast enough to actually pick up the recording. So that's one thing I'm hoping that maybe with a firmware update or something they can sort that out. But yeah, so the two main takeaways so far, or the three if you like. So the first one is obviously the notifications, so they need to sort that out so then you can keep recording but disable the push notifications to your phone. The second one is the actual motion zones, or the way in which it records. I want it to capture the person approaching and not just once it's detected them and they've basically delivered a parcel and they're walking away again, because at that point you're not actually capturing their face. And the third one is, what was the third one? Yeah, the third one was the battery life. Nowhere near the claimed 1 year battery life. I wouldn't expect it to be as I said when I installed it, but however I didn't expect it to be quite this bad either. Literally 7 days and it's down to 92%. Now one thing you have to remember is when I first installed it, because I've got it set up with HomeKit and everything, I was using it a lot more. I was logging into it a lot more to view the live feed a lot more than I would normally do so. So once that all settles down, maybe that'll get a bit better. And the other thing that I did actually notice whilst I was actually initially setting all of these up, so when I charged them up, one of the cameras took a lot longer to actually charge. So I believe it was actually the back garden one. You can't really tell because this has had a lot fewer detections essentially, but one of these cameras literally charged up within maybe 3-4 hours, and the other one literally was left overnight into the following day, and then I came back from work and at that point it was actually fully charged. And both of them, when I first started setting up, showed around about 60% battery life. So I think possibly one of these cameras, maybe the driveway one, hasn't actually fully charged, because it seemed to charge way too fast to actually charge up to 100%. But where they're both located, it's not like it's a difficult job for me to take down. The bedroom one, well, the driveway one, essentially I just lean out the bedroom window, as funny as that is, and just unscrew it and then plug it in on charge. And the back garden one, basically it's high enough to where you can't reach it, but just with the step ladder which I've got in the shed just back there, I can get that down in a couple of minutes and then just put it on charge. So not the end of the world, but as I said, battery life, the better it can be, the more convenient it will be for me. However, I was not expecting this to last a year with my usage, with the amount of foot traffic that I have on my driveway, because of the amount of deliveries, because of the amount of times that the kids got out onto the driveway, because of all of that. I wasn't expecting it to last a year. So even if I can get to half a year. But what I will do is, a lot of times when it comes to battery life, obviously your first 10% either drops really slowly, as it does with Apple products, where they give you that feeling where, yeah, it's still not dropped down, and then once it drops below 90, it crashes down really fast. Other devices, what they tend to do is the first few percentage drop down faster, and then it could take a lot, maybe twice as long for basically your bottom 50% to actually discharge. So what I will probably try and do is run this down as far as I feel comfortable in terms of it just not switching off, or what I may do is just leave it until I get prompted to actually charge the devices, and then I'll make a note of how long it actually takes to charge as well. But yeah, that's essentially a first quick look at all of the devices in both the Eufy Security app as well as the home app with HomeKit support. And to be fair, I'm happy with everything, the way in which they're working. I've not fully integrated them yet, because essentially what I wanted to do was use this sensor here, the driveway sensor, and set up a scene, if you like. So as soon as it spots somebody on the driveway, it'll basically play a tune or turn on the lights or something like that. But I already have something like that set up through my Aqara system, and because the Aqara one is essentially working off Zigbee, it's a lot faster, so that actually triggers almost instantly, and basically it can detect somebody before they've even knocked on the door because of the way it's set up. So at the moment there's no need for that, but so far so good in terms of how they're actually playing back. I've not come to them any days and found that they're showing as not responsive or anything like that. So every single device that I've connected on, the TV running tvOS 14, the iPad, the iPhone running iOS 14, as well as this phone, everything seems to work perfectly fine. So all good on the HomeKit side of things. I just wish that they'd get these issues sorted with regards to the notifications and the other few little niggles with the Eufy security app.